Better music all the time.
KI Radio.
Yes, people, it is, I'm going to do something a bit different today. It is 2:13 p.m. Daylight Savings Time, 1:13 p.m. Eastern Standard. Good afternoon to you, Jamaica, the Caribbean, and the world. Welcome to another edition of Culture Classics. It's Full of Vibes Friday, and it's going to be a very interesting day today. How are you all doing today? I am in yellow, pink, blue, and white. What interesting colors there. It is sunny side up in the Miami-Dade County area. And I know it's hot down there in Jamaica. And hey, it's a great day to be alive and well in our right minds. Yeah. For those who are having a bad day, who are having a bad day and were having a bad day, just remember that Christ is in the center of all things. And remember that you can work things out. Whenever there's a problem, there's always a solution. My name is Diva, and I'll be here with you up until my battery says when. But I have my other co-host that'll be keeping your company, Steve.
Good afternoon.
Excuse me. How are you?
I'm not doing too bad. The kind of energy I'm having right now, I'm trying to put it aside so we can get through this 1 to 5 very easily. So
same here, but hey, it's gonna be a good day.
Yeah, definitely.
And we have a special guest coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited for him to grace the stage. But let me say a special good afternoon. I did it yesterday. I'll do it again today to all the ACB members.
Good afternoon.
All the new members, all the prospective members, candidates, board members, directors, stakeholders, investors, everybody involved in the ACB, FCB, and other chapters. Good afternoon to you. Thank you for tuning in.
All right, help me out to something here, Diva.
Yes.
You said ACB, which is obviously an acronym. What does that mean?
The American Council for the Blind.
Thank you. And you mentioned...
Wait. Janet, where are you?
Janet seems to be having...
I am in Colorado.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Janet.
Hello, and Colorado does not have an ACB anymore, so I had to join an affiliate. So I joined BITS, which is a blind technology group, since I like technology. So that's
all right.
And I am going to the conference virtually for the very first time. So I'm excited.
You're excited.
All right. First of all, let me give you an official on-air welcome to KI Radio's Culture Classics. And I'm your host, the most DJ Stevie Steve, and I trust you met Diva behind the scenes. Thank you for being. Yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have been here if Anthony didn't accidentally send the link. He accidentally sent the link to the conversation list, so that's how I got here.
All right.
Well, welcome. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah, some accidents are good. So yeah.
Yes. Yes. So coming up soon, guys, we have our special guest, Anthony Corona, who's going to grace the stage. And also we have other information for you to sit back, relax, and just enjoy the Friday. The time right now is now 2:17 p.m. Daylight Savings Time, which is 1:17 p.m. Eastern Standard. So please stay tuned. If it's your birthday, happy birthday to you. If it's your anniversary, happy anniversary. If it's a special day, congratulations. Okay, fine. Yes, I was told to stick with Eastern, so I'll stick with Eastern. So if it's your birthday, happy birthday to you. If it's your anniversary, happy anniversary. It's a special day. Congratulations. If not, remember that the race is far from over. You can find us on Instagram at KI_radio, Facebook.com/we are KI Radio. We have a WhatsApp group floating around. We have our different links floating around, our Linktree profile. We have our Alexa smart speakers. You can find us on there. Just say, Alexa, enable Get Me Radio, or Alexa, enable My Tuner Radio. So I'm going to ask you what station to play. Say, play KI Radio worldwide, and bam, we are there. So
All
stay
right.
tuned. Yes.
Yeah. And hence, that is how the connection is made. And as I would customarily do, good afternoon to all the listeners. Good afternoon to all the KI radio representatives working behind the scenes and on the front line. Let me say good afternoon to both our programs directors. That is Mr. Sidney Thorpe and the chaplain, Mr. Bill Morris. Good afternoon to you. Auntie Arlene, as per usual, good afternoon to you and enjoy the rest of your day. Althea Barrett.
Feel the music, feel the
CDAP, big
vibes.
up yourself,
Vibes
all right?
Friday.
It is Full of Vibes Friday. So you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to kick off with dancing shoes. So
Yes.
DJ KI, everything good with your boss? Well, may I tell you about last night? Last night something there.
Oh, wait. Let me. Yes, about single life.
Yes.
Jeanette, are you single or are you married? You care to share?
No. Well,
No, wait, no. Wait. Notice,
What?
notice I said if you care to share. All right, fine. I'll answer.
How do you handle single life?
It's kind of fun.
Uh-huh.
It can be boring. It can be lonely, but there are perks to it. You don't have to be committed to certain things. You don't have to be you know your own self.
Okay.
You don't stay off the road. That's all.
All right. Well to all. All right. To all the single folks, we don't go and enjoy yourself. That's all I'll say there. That is all I will say there. Oh, and secondly, don't lie to yourself. Okay.
Why would you lie to yourself?
What? You have people lie to themselves.
Why would you lie to yourself?
Yeah, that's another question. Why would you lie to yourself? You know you don't like single life. You know you well want somebody to squeeze. Don't make a start. Don't make a start. Anyway.
Marriages of today are not lasting. Relationships of today are not lasting anymore. They're not.
No, because there's a formula. There's a formula that is missing. That is true, KI. There's no perfect relationship, but guess what?
Yes, it's not perfect, but I mean, come on. When we can't get our needs met, then what do we do?
No, hold on now. No. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you're not ready for responsibility, if you're not ready for it, nobody with it. Don't bother with it.
Okay, but you have some people out there who are responsible, but then when it reaches the hefty load, you can't handle it.
Again, hold on. Again, if I did not say this on air, I'm going to say it. There's a difference between a donkey carrying weight and a human being carrying weight. If a human being carries a donkey's weight, we're going to have trouble.
And our guest is here, so we will get back on this discussion after our guest has done his thing. So, all about single life. And did you visit my Facebook page, Mr. Henry? There was a comment posted from a particular DJ.
Yeah, I saw it.
Hello again and welcome to the greatest show on earth, the #1 daytime show to keep you entertained, cool, dancing, laughing, jumping, singing, and doing all sort of craziness. And we're just here chilling with you up until 5 p.m. My name is Diva, or you can call me Tia, and I'm here to keep you company. Again, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook, we are KI Radio, that's / we are KI Radio. Instagram at KI_radio. YouTube, KI Radio TV. Send us an email at only, ONLY, KILLC @gmail.com. And you can also find us on your Alexa smart speaker. Say, Alexa, enable Get Me Radio, or Alexa, enable My Tuner Radio. And she's going to ask you, okay, what should I play? Say, play KI Radio Worldwide. And if you're wondering what does KI stand for, KI stands for knowledge and intelligence. So, as I alluded to in the week, all about the ACB convention and all about ACB, the people, stakeholders, investors, affiliates, partners, other sponsors, other chapters, locally, internationally, and so forth. And we are going to kick things off with our candidates and other members. And I was scrolling through the list, and I've always heard about this gentleman through a friend of mine, and she was and still is a good friend of mine and a partner in podcasting, Miss Annie Chiappetta in New York. And just spoken due diligently about this gentleman, very intelligently. And she said, if you ever see this guy, tell him Annie said hello. I'm like, okay. And here he is today in studio, Anthony Corona. Hey, Anthony.
Hey. And thanks to Annie for what a great shout out. Wow. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Annie is amazing. If you haven't read her poetry or books, go find them. They are awesome.
Yes, and I'll repost her links. Guys, you can find them on Amazon. She's also on Facebook, sometimes on Instagram. You can also email her, but Annie has a wide variety of poetry books, and it's just super amazing. So, Anthony, tell us about you first. How did you became blind?
Well, I am one of a very rare set of folks around the world. I had shingles, and instead of presenting outside on my body, it was in the tissues in my head, in my brain, in my ears, in my eyes. And yeah, it was very scary. I didn't know what was happening. I was getting these massive migraines and seeing like spots and flashes. I was completely sighted up until that point. And in the matter of a day and a half, I had a hole drilled into my skull to relieve the pressure on my brain, eye injections, and all kinds of things. And unfortunately, the progression was so quick and devastating. It destroyed my retinas, which were already sensitive because I had a whitewater rafting accident years before. So there wasn't really much that they could do to save. Thankfully, I didn't end up with vertigo or any I'm knocking as I say this, any brain damage. But it was a scary time. And I went from, basically full vision with contacts to nothing in the space of 3 days.
So tell us about the mental mindset of going through these spasms, now becoming legally blind. Yeah, take us through that.
Well, I honestly, I've spoken about this before, and I don't really remember a lot of the first couple of months.
That's okay.
There was so much to do and to learn and to accept. And I really didn't want to accept it. I ended up having 6 surgeries trying to see if they could use some laser to restore some of the retina. And, but as the dust started to settle and I figured out that this was my new normal, I threw myself into learning mobility, learning, the skills that I needed, screen readers and such. And I honestly credit about a year and a half into my mobility, I was given the opportunity, the chance to work with a guide dog. It was, they were giving me a shot to see if I was ready. And I credit that with changing everything. That really was the trajectory to push me back into, real life.
Oh, so now that you're blind, plus a guide dog, then what in terms of mobility, technology? Yeah, take us through that.
Well, I mean, for those listening, technology is a lifesaver. I mean, I couldn't imagine going through this even 25 years ago. But it's also hard. repetitive. You need to practice. You need to understand the gestures and things.
Yes.
Getting used to that voice reading everything to you. Subsequently, I keep it at about 85 now. So when people that aren't visually impaired hear it, they're often like, "What is that?" And I joke with them. I say, "Oh, it's Swahili." But little by little, through repetition and use, you get you get the skills that you need. And I was determined to be able to live. I was living alone at that point, and had been for the bulk of my life, but I was determined to be independent and to get the skills. I've transitioned the last couple of months. I've been learning Braille. I think learning is a lifelong process. When we stop learning, we start the slow march to the other side, so to speak. So I'm never going to stop learning. And I'm not going to say that my life is the same. I think I'm a better person. That I can absolutely say. I'm more well-rounded. I was very work-oriented, and stuck in wanting to make a good amount of money and have a good, set of experiences in life. Being blind forced me to slow down and take a look at everything I am and everything that I achieve and want. And then also take a look at the personal and say, you know what? There are some things in life that aren't worth it when you calculate the personal cost. How many birthdays of my nieces and nephews did I miss because I was traveling for work? How many opportunities to make friendships last went by the wayside because I was so, into achieving and hitting that next goal. And not that I'm not goal oriented now, but my friends who know me sometimes they're like, "Anthony, please, no more new ideas. Give us at least a week to catch up." But I also love my life. I found my partner. I found our family through the American Council of the Blind and Blind Pride International, which is the LGBTQIA affiliate of the American Council of the Blind. And I've made some incredible friendships, and I'm happy to say I'm thriving. I'm working. I do 2 internet podcasts for the American Council of the Blind, and I'm living really well.
Awesome. May I ask you a personal question?
You may.
What was it like being single?
Well, post blindness or in general?
Relationship wise.
Well, before going blind, I wasn't really interested in relationships. My tagline was while we're having fun, we can be together, once it's no longer fun or once it's, too much work, I'm out. And I lived that way because between family responsibilities and work, there wasn't really space for a significant someone. When I started dating blind, that was a trip. I absolutely have to say. Some of the outright rejections, the questions that, personal questions that I don't believe people would ask if I wasn't blind. It was definitely a trip, but then I met, someone who became my partner, my spiritual husband, and someday in the near future, we will legally marry. But I met him and everything just, it was right. When it's right, it's right. I could tell you 1,000 stories that prove that it was right to me, but I kind of knew in that first night, that first kiss, that first incredibly illuminating conversation that he was the one. And I had to make a lot of changes in my thought and feeling process, but it's all been worth it. Okay.
All right. So I'm getting to the interesting part because every state is different. What was it like in New York before moving to Florida? Yeah.
Having lived there all my life, I honestly say, I always say, and it comes from a very honest place. It was a great place to begin my blind portion of life. I knew the city well. It has a great transportation system. Anything that you need is within a subway's reach. So that was a great place for me to begin my blind journey. Think about crossing, Broadway at 42nd Street. If you can cross that intersection, you can cross anywhere in the world. It's, things like that. Having the support structure of friends and family was very helpful. And I shied myself away from life for the first year or so while I learned the skills that I needed, but being able to initially practice those skills in New York was amazing. Coming to Miami was definitely a culture shock in a lot of ways, especially in
Can
all of
understand.
the travel. The transportation system here is nothing like New York. But I will never have to shovel my walkway again. So, you kind of pick and choose what you need for this time period in your life. And that's what I did. And Miami won.
Oh, awesome. So take us through your walk through ACB.
So I came to East. I had a couple of experiences with the other major consumer organization. And I really didn't feel comfortable there. It's a different philosophy, and I don't think that one's philosophy is right or wrong. I think depending on who you are and what your needs are as a person, one organization may be more of a fit than the other. So I was wary. But one of my friends who I had made in guide dog school was going to the convention and was, sharing a room with someone, and that person dropped out at almost the last minute, and he wouldn't have been able to afford the entire week, without a roommate. And so last minute, I kind of was like, you know what? I had just received a check for a story I had written. I was like, okay, this is the universe telling me, give this a shot. And I first joined ACB through Blind Pride International. I wasn't even a member of ACB when I went up to that convention in Rochester in 2019. And I joined BPI, which subsequently led me to becoming a member of the American Council of the Blind. And not long after that, I got the organization bug. My advocacy beforehand had always been for the LGBTQ and autism communities. My degree is in recreational therapy. And so, that's where I spent the bulk of my advocating. And I realized, I want to advocate with my new people, my new family. And ACB, is an organization that, yes, we advocate, yes, we share information, but we also build incredible relationships. And so, as I met more people and experienced more of the organization, I wanted to be part of what the organization does. And then the pandemic hit, and the community call structure was born, which, changed everything, I think, for, organizations like the American Council of the Blind. We quickly figured out that we needed a way to stay connected, and to stay busy and have learning opportunities, et cetera. The membership services director was looking for ways to keep us connected. Blind Pride was already doing Zoom calls. So we fit into that structure very easily. We consider ourselves part of the founding of community. I quickly started a podcast that is still active today, Sunday Edition, as well as Pride Connection, which is the BPI podcast for LGBTQ. But Sunday Edition became wildly popular, and I get all kinds of new technology. We highlight all the advocacy that we do. Every week it's a different show. We get personal, we have couple shows, we have fun stuff. And it's become a staple for the ACB Media Network. And it's something I absolutely love doing. I can bring my journalistic side to advocating and to my people and highlight what the thing I love the most is finding someone that, is quiet in the background doing great work, but doesn't really, talk about themselves, and not many people know them, and bringing them onto Sunday Edition and shining and letting them shine and helping voices that aren't necessarily always heard. That's my passion.
Well, off air, we can talk about it and see if we can broadcast it on air on Sundays.
All right. Awesome. I love that.
No problem. So you have answered majority of my questions, but I want to ask you though, before I go back to the LGBT and the organizations, because all these are really interesting, I want the public to get an understanding, especially those who are listening for the very first time and those who may want to donate or spark an interest in ACB. What is ACB? If you can tell us about the chapters, the roles and functions, what you can recall.
So the American Council of the Blind, I like to describe it as the parent organization of a group of sub-organizations called affiliates. And there are state affiliates and there are special interest affiliates like Blind LGBT Pride. And those range from, we have, students and next generation. They're, the group between students and middle-aged. We have ACB families, radio amateurs, bits, technology. So, each state has a representation. Some states like New York and Florida being very large. Other states that have, more rural population may not have as large of, as a membership base. But then we all come together nationally under the umbrella of the American Council of the Blind. And it's a grassroots consumer organization. We center around advocacy, peer support, and social connection. We do things like a Get Up and Get Moving campaign, because in the disability community, it is a lot harder to access exercise technology.
Yes.
Going to the gym blind is definitely an adventure.
Yes.
So, every area of life, employment, and all the things that touch us on a daily basis, the American Council of the Blind has some sort of information or an outlet or an affiliate dedicated to it. And so in a way, it's the one-stop shop for, blind information and blind connection. One of our taglines is we aim to be the chief influencer within the blind and low vision community. And I think we do a great job of it, especially with the community call structure. There's so many amazing ways to connect. If I need a technical question, any kind of question, blindness related answer, I go to one of the email lists, I pop the question, and I've got an answer in 5 minutes, multiple answers. It's, it really is that space for blind community.
Right. Awesome. I love it. So those folks who have just became blind and are looking for activities, well, the American Council of the Blind has different activities for you and you and you to get involved in. So Anthony, I see here real quickly, you were involved in the retail, the food and beverage management.
Way back when, yes.
Way back when.
Way back
when. That.
So I started working when I was 14 years old. I worked in a library. And my next job was Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips. My next job after that was Record Town, if anybody remembers that store. And subsequently through high school and college, I supported myself by working. In college, I became a bar manager for an Applebee's. And I was in a smaller restaurant, but I did so well.
Awesome.
Thank you. They asked me to take that position in the largest Applebee's on the northeastern states, which was Valley Stream Mall, Long Island. And wow, was that a popping place. And I loved it, being behind the bar and learning management skills, meeting new people every single night. The tips really weren't bad at all. So it was a good job to have. And I learned a lot. I tell, parents whenever I end up in those kind of conversations and they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to let my kid work in fast food. No. Let your kid work in fast food. Let them understand what it's like to have a job and to be, get those responsibility, pieces of life early on. Restrict the hours if need be, but, let them work, let them understand what it's like to report to a boss, to serve the public.
Wow. Awesome. So what we find, and as you can relate, what we find in the blind community, especially these organizations, is a challenge. One of the biggest challenges is communication and media. Hence why you are campaigning to be a part of the public relations, because you have your skills, knowledge in the media. What are some of the challenges that you have figured out in communication, in relaying the message to blind people across the states?
I think, in any nonprofit organization, there's going to be multiple, means of communication, and they can spiral out of control. And I think, that to effectively communicate, you have to craft the message in a way that it's open to everyone who reads it. It has to be succinct. Nobody wants to read a 3-page email in this day and age.
Oh, yeah.
So, I almost say, like, you have to bullet point your ideas, for that quick access. Think about, even the way we experience our news. Every single news outlet has that 5-minute podcast giving you the top headlines, and you can listen to it multiple times a day. Nobody sits and listens to hours interview, things like that anymore. So you really have to look at what condense it and look at what the trend is. Find the hook. The message, the message is going to be useless if you don't hook the person into the message. So, every organization has struggles with that. Right. And I think we've done a good job accessing all of the media that's available, and we've created our own media network, which we are just really figuring out the extent of how much we can use that, how much we can also streamline communications through our own media network. But ultimately speaking, an organization like ours, we need donations. And so we have to craft our public outgoing message in a way that's going to hook people and make them, want to spend a share of their donation dollars to our organization. And how do you do that? Very succinctly let them know we create opportunity for our community, we advocate for our needs, and we never stop our interaction, and basically we're a family. Those are the bullet points. Hit them out there, get them out there, and hopefully some of the donation dollars will come in.
Awesome. So convention is among us, and you have been to previous conventions.
I have.
Apart from the braille, large print, and email, do you think there could be some other form of communication in order to spread the awareness, the agenda, the notes, whatever it may be? So,
I've mentioned ACB Media a bunch of times already. All of the business of the organization is, the resolutions that we're going to vote on, constitutional amendments, things like that. So that's all recorded at the moment. We also are translating it into Spanish, and it's available through the media network.
Yay. Yes.
A lot of the business of the organization will be broadcast over the media network as well, so anyone can access and listen in. A good number of the sessions are what we call hybrid, so they'll be in person and virtual participation. But I honestly think that that's just the tip of the iceberg. Between the calendar functions and the link functions and things that we can do with ACB Media, we can streamline our communications and highlight them for friends and family first, and for the greater population, so that they can see and understand. I think one of the biggest things that's an obstacle for our community is most people think that we can't do very much. Obviously, we can't get behind the wheel of a car and drive from point A to point B. With autonomous vehicles, that may change in 5 to 10 years. God bless. I hope it does. But there's hardly anything that we actually can't do. We have blind mountain climbers, blind marathon runners. We have blind CEOs. Across the board, when you think of something that comes to mind and you say, "Oh, a blind person couldn't do it," there's probably someone out there trying to do it or already having done it. And I think that our media network, forming partnerships with other, media outlets out there, and showing the lives that we live and how much we live just like everybody else, with a couple of little minor adjustments. And who in life doesn't have a minor adjustment? Think about it. Who's on a diet? Who isn't drinking alcohol for a while or forever? Who's just a new mother and isn't getting any sleep? Who's a new father and trying to get out of the house as much as possible because he doesn't want to change? We're all modifying life on a daily basis. Our modifications are just more visible because you look at us and realize we can't see. And the way that we access our information is more, it's more out there. You hear our phones, you see our canes tapping, you see our dogs leading us around. But you don't translate that often into, wow, that guy's going to work, or, that lady has 3 kids, blind, look at her. It's not the inspiration of, oh my God, how could you do that? It's permeated into your soul and understand, of course they could do it. They just had to figure out how to do it for themselves. And didn't I have to do that along my path in so many ways as well?
I love that answer. Folks, I'm speaking with the handsome gentleman in the building, Anthony Corona, and the time right here on KI Radio. It's now, where are you? 1:53 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome if you're just tuning in. We're talking with Anthony about himself and about ACB and all about communication, accessibility, making it easier for others. So, Anthony, there are persons who are blind, plus hearing impaired, plus have some sort of intellectual disability.
Absolutely.
Do you think, or do you know of any ways in which the media, your department, can simplify the information for them?
Well, we're already doing as much as we can at this point. We make sure that everybody can access all of our programming, or as much of our programming as possible. Right. We use the Zoom platform a lot. And so we break it down to the call-in numbers, the access codes, everything that we put out publicly, you can get through a telephone line that the American Council of the Blind has, and you can access all of those codes. Do I think we can do more? Absolutely. And I think coalition and partnership is the wave. It's the wave of the future for organizations like ours. I think we need to reach out to the subject matter experts in comorbidity, whether it be deafblind or, we have a thriving diabetes affiliate that gives all kinds of information. We should be able to do the same thing for those of us that are less technologically savvy or have some cognitive disabilities that may present barriers for them reaching the information. We're doing as much as we can right now, and we are exploring many ways to ramp up that piece of our outgoing communication.
If you win this election, how are you different from these other candidates? How would you be different? What would spark that Anthony spark to wow, oh my God, this communication line is over the top?
Well, I mean, I think I'm a natural born communicator / people person, a natural born writer. So, those skills translate no matter where you're using. And those, I think there's been, a significant amount of my participation in those areas within the organization. So I think folks can see that I've got the chops on that side of it. But I also think my lived experience, having worked in the Associated Press, having worked in retail, having traveled around the world as a sighted person, having advocated in autism and LGBTQ, some of those skills translate, almost completely. Some of them need to be modified, but they're all valuable skills that, as I continue to apply them, if I am elected to this position, which I hope I am, will greatly impact, the way we are able to communicate amongst ourselves. But more important, I think at this moment, the real reason that I'm running for this position is twofold. It's first to help amplify the voices of those that aren't really aren't really using their voice very much in the community, and then to take our entire story and put it out there to the world at large so that they can understand who we are, how we live, and what we're capable of. And hopefully in those messages, the subtext of that message is we're just like everybody else, except we can't see.
I love that. I'm about to get to the LGBTQ and autism because I met a lady recently. She is also LGBTQ and she has 4 children. And I think 2 are all 4. I think 2 are autistic. And I think she has a nonprofit. So I'm going to connect the 2 of you. But before I get to that, was it you or somebody on the candidates call the night? I think it was you mentioned about the voice blog.
Yes.
Tell us about the voice blog.
Well, thank you. It's actually, I was an intern in the communications and the grant field for ACB early on in 2020 and 2021. And I created the ACB Voices blog, and it is a repository of our stories.
Yes.
And so, that is going to be my major focus if I am elected, to curating that to the space where it is, hopefully it will become our outward face for the rest of the world. But there's a very special feature that I am very, very proud of. It's called Member on the Mic. And every month we highlight a member that isn't necessarily nationally recognized, for the good work that they do, for their positive attitude, for the inspiration. We always end with an inspirational thought or quote or call to action.
Right.
But any ACB member or outside partner who has something to say about blindness is welcome to submit to the blog. And, we really want it to be our forward-facing, means of communication to the outside world.
Oh, because I was about to ask, because there are other persons who are in the outside world, like the Caribbean, other countries, if they'll be able to participate in the voice blog, because, different stories changes lives.
Absolutely. Because of the community, we've always had international members, but because of the community, we've had such, and by the community, I mean the call structures, the daily calls, which there are over 150 a week. We've gotten so many international members, so much. We have Finland, the Philippines, Japan, Germany, and that's just to name a few. And recently we had an article from one of our Philippine brothers and sisters, and sharing a little bit about what life is like as a blind person in the Philippines. And I would love more of that. We have an international relations committee that does that same kind of work for the organization. And so, it's an underused tool at the moment, but it could really blossom into something really special for ACB and for the blind community at large.
Well, I would love to be a part of that committee so I can assist in that area.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about that. So back to the LGBTQ and the autistic spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about autism that you want to highlight, or should I say advocate?
I think we all have some ideas of what autism is and how it presents in things. And so I think the first thing that I'll say is, like everything else, throw that idea away. Every single autistic person is different. That's why they call it a spectrum. And so, what shows up in one person may not show up in the next person that you encounter who's autistic. And just like any of the disability community, we're all people trying to be the best people that we can be. And whatever roadblocks, in this case, autism, that's put in our path, hopefully we find the tools, the skills, the tools, and the support systems needed to enhance and live a full, whole, happy life. I often say, please don't feel sorry for me. I found my space. I'm thriving. Instead of sympathy, spend a little time in empathy, and maybe think about how I live my life a little bit differently than you do to accomplish the same kind of goals that you are. And I say the same thing about the autism community. Some of what they deal with, like the blind and visually impaired, is very, very visible. And
Yes.
so, if you don't understand it, don't be scared of it, and don't
Right.
judge it. If it's not something that's going to impact your life in any meaningful way, then smile and move on. But if you want to know more, ask, and experience, because, these people have beautiful hearts, wonderful brains,
They do.
souls. And so, instead of focusing on what's different, find the commonality and whatever adjustment might need to be made so that you can play on that field levelly. Communication might be a little bit different. The way that they experience the surroundings, noise and things, bright lights, that might change. But once you get used to that and you accept that, then you can feel and understand the beautiful souls that are underneath those difficulties.
Wow. Oh my goodness. And a lot of our schools in the Caribbean, the world that has persons who are visually challenged, they're said to be also autistic as well. And so, how do you handle them? Who is there to advocate for them? And I'm so happy that I was able to extend a little bit more time for you to speak about the autism side. Now, the side that everybody seems to refrain from, the LGBTQ.
Yes.
What, first of all, LGBTQ, what does it stand for, please?
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. And there are some more letters, and they're wonderful. But basically, it's the rainbow community. It's those of us that identify, and it's a spectrum as well. Not everyone is fully gay. Not everyone is, fully. If they're bisexual, that doesn't mean that they're exactly 50-50.
Right.
It is a spectrum just like everything else. And most importantly, in all of these conversations, autism, blind, deaf, blind, and LGBTQ, at the heart of it all, we're human. And so, we can focus on, the needs, which are more specific at times than the blind community at large. But then some of the blind issues are specific and not necessarily as prominent in other disability communities. So, it's always going to be that ladder of needing to balance the sides of yourself and the sides of your activism with the core group.
Right.
And it's definitely a tight rope to walk.
Wow. So I can't wait to speak to Christopher Bell, whom I met over the phone, and he was in the candidate forum. What
Great
are some
guy.
of the? Oh yes.
Yeah.
Let me say hello to our second visitor. I can't pronounce his name because of the voiceover. Doctor, you know your name. Yeah. Hello to you. Welcome to Culture Classic. Thank you for stopping in. Jeanette, hope you're enjoying yourself, love. Anyways, so what are some of the legislations that you know of as it regards to the LGBTQ, like no discrimination, what are some of the legislations, the rights?
Well, over the last couple of years, there have been over 670 what we call anti-LGBTQ proposed laws around the country. Living in the state of Florida, it saddens my heart that there has been so much. But most recently, there have been some stuff that have either been stayed or overturned. So that gives me hope. But things like banning books and, talking about, nobody really cared about bathroom business until people got on the media and started, selling these wild stories of things that never happened and would never happen. And the push for bathroom, separation of gender within the bathroom is a microaggression. It's a way of pushing down at our transgender members. There is medical, bills that have already been passed and that are trying to be passed, basically saying you cannot choose to treat to become who you are.
Right.
I'm not transgender, so I can never pretend to live in that space. But I do know what it's like, to not be out and have to hide. And so if I times that by 1,000, that's got to be close to what it feels like for the world, or a certain segment of the world, telling you you're not allowed to be who you were born to be. And nature makes mistakes. It's called mutations.
Yes.
Who are we to presume that God didn't set this in motion for whatever reason? I'm not going to call it a mistake, but God set this in motion for whatever reason. Who are we to assume that, based on, some words in a beautiful book? It's an absolutely beautiful book, but that's translated through man. And to use that as a justification to tell people you're shameful, you're dirty, you're ugly, and you cannot be this, is, to me, it's just horrific. Going back to the law, laws themselves, there is registries that you can go to see what your state, what laws are, and Blind Part International has some of that information.
Really?
I'm not going to bore. Yeah. And you can see what's going on in your state, and you'd be very surprised at some of these bills. We all heard the news yesterday that Louisiana is requiring the 10 Commandments to be poster sized in every single classroom that receives state money, including universities. Well, what does that do to someone who is transgender? What does that do to someone who's Muslim? Judaism, obviously, Christianity was born out of Judaism. So I would imagine they're okay, but Hindu and all of the various other things that we are and can be, and so if you think you're offended about that, think about all these rights telling you you're wrong, you're disgusting, and you can't be who you are anymore because we think that God wants this instead of this. It's demoralizing, and it makes you understand why there's such a higher instance of suicide in the LGBTQ, especially the transgender part of our community. Because when you hear you're disgusting, you're not, and you are not allowed anymore to, where does your emotions go? Where does your mind go?
Right.
And unfortunately, there's not enough help out there. And so many fall through the cracks. And so all I say is, vote with your heart, vote with your conscience, but really, please spend time educating, especially at the local level. These are the people making the policies and voting on the policies that affect you, your children, your family, your friends. So, before you go into that booth or mark that, that absentee ballot, spend a little time figuring out what the platforms are of the folks that you're about to mark off, and make sure that they align with what you want your world to look like.
So one of my best friends from high school says, interesting story. She says, I have heard stories, especially the one about the bathrooms, some bathrooms, one for boys, one for girls, and one for transgenders. And she says, wow, in Florida, I did not know that they were worse in Florida. Okay, interesting. KMA. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very glad that the convention is being held in Jacksonville. It's a city that is trying very hard to rebel against some of the more draconian policies. We were given assurances that all of our LGBTQ, especially our transgender members, would be safe. I believe that the mayor, she immediately established a DEIA. The A for accessibility is really important. office within, within her government. And I do believe that Jacksonville is fighting the good fight, but there are parts of Florida that are scary, that are, I wouldn't want. I'm so glad I'm in Miami. Let's put it that way. But there are parts of every state, even states like New York. There are some very, areas that are very unfriendly to differences, whatever
Right.
they may be. Yeah.
I was talking to someone and she said that Jacksonville is a developing town of Florida. It's slow, but they're developing in every way that they can.
They are.
Anthony, how can persons find you on the web, contact you, so forth?
All right. So I have a very easy email. It's my program, Sunday Edition, and my initials. So Sunday Edition, AC, all one word, @gmail.com. They can go to ACB Media Network and look up podcasts and Sunday Edition. They can go to the candidates page and get to know me there. That's on acb.org. They can go to Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I'm on X. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Mastodon. I'm Anthony31C for Instagram and Twitter, and I'm Anthony Corona on Facebook and everywhere else.
Awesome. Do you want to say hi to anybody out there, and what's your final words to stakeholders, investors, those who are adjusting to blindness, all your fans, friends, family, everybody?
All right, I'm gonna take up a couple of minutes if you don't mind. First and foremost, to those listening, please go to acb.org and or bpi.gay. And please consider spending a little bit of your donation dollars for our organizations. It takes a lot to run organizations like this, and we barely run above our operating costs. So if you're out there and you've got a few dollars to donate, we're amazing organizations. You can get to any of the state organizations through acb.org. To the voters who might be listening today, I have come to this organization with passion, persistence, and a love for people. And I've displayed that every step of the way. I really ask for your vote because I know that at a greater level with the Board of Publications, we can achieve the goal of being the chief influencer in the blind and low vision community. So please, spend your vote on me. I will do you proud. To friends and family, just thank you for loving and supporting me for all of this. Before I went blind, through this journey, and now as I try to ascend to leadership within this community. Thank you so much for all the love and support. There's too many of you guys to name. I really wish I could. 3 names I most definitely will name is Posh, Boaty, and Puppy Gabe. Those are our guide dogs and retired guide dog. There is not a moment in this life where those dogs don't put a smile on my face and make me feel like it is so worth getting up every morning. And to my partner, Gabriel, you make life everything, and everything that implies. Thank you so much for allowing me to be the first one. I hope you all, enjoy the rest of the candidates. We all have something to offer. I'm really, really proud to be amongst this group of people. And however it goes, but take a listen to everyone and vote with the best interest of the organization in your heart. Thank you for letting me be here today. I really, really, really appreciate it.
You're most welcome. Anthony Corona in the building, y'all.